The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in a cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
Ghost stories,
folklore,
psychics and mediums,
shamanism,
paranormal investigations,
haunted locations, and all that other weird shit.
You're listening to the Traveler's Moon Podcast
with the paranomad Chris Nielsen
and Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
Here's your host, Chris and Kelly.
Woo! What's up, guys?
It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday.
So excited.
So it's hump day.
It's hump day.
First day of the week.
We are on the downward slope of hump day, which means we are heading into the weekend. That's how I like thinking about this.
My weekends are different than your weekends, though, so it doesn't particularly matter to me.
This is true.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive right into it.
Absolutely, because I think this is going to be a
pretty exciting guest. I think most people in chat right now probably know who he is. I'm going to steal a phrase and say, welcome to the great and powerful Keith Weldon.
And it's funny that you say that, because I was thinking earlier as we're introducing him, the man behind the application, Mr. Keith Weldon.
Cool. How you doing, man?
Good. How you guys doing?
We are great.
Doing good.
Definitely.
All right.
So for anybody who hasn't heard us drop this name over and over and over, Keith is the designer of the applications that we use when we are out on investigations. Spiritus, Necrophonic, Sweetbox, Signal, Deadwave.
That's all of them, right?
Did I miss any?
EVP Shifter as well.
EVP Shifter.
Yeah.
I'm actually not familiar with that one, so I'm hitting the App Store after this. Cool.
So, I mean, we're going to have a million questions for you guys, but I guess I want to start out the show just kind of by saying I'm super excited to have Keith on as a guest. I know you guys who've listened to us before have probably heard me say this, but I want to just share with Keith that one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on the show, and one of the reasons that I support your application so much, is I am a psychic medium, so I'm able to speak to the spirits who have passed directly. And when I started using your applications and just trying to see how they work, I was using Spiritus first, of course, and you sold me instantly, because I would have a spirit talking to me and they would start a sentence where I heard it through my medium abilities and they'd finish it through Spiritus. It was amazing. So I have been sold on it since day one.
Yeah, and actually, that's not the first time I've heard that from psychic mediums who have used the apps, and they're like, I've communicated with spirits, and like your app's saying like what I'm hearing kind of thing, and I'm like, okay, yeah. That's a good sign.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm kind of like a giddy little schoolgirl kind of fangirl in here, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit.
So yeah, I guess moving forward, I was curious as to a few things with this process, and I'm very familiar with the applications, and I want to kind of hop into that. But I guess just kind of start everything off. You're also a paranormal investigator, and I was kind of curious how you got into that, because it's kind of everybody's got their own introductory story into it all. So we were just kind of curious as to what yours was.
Yeah. Well, like a lot of people, I had experiences when I was younger, like in my teen years, I would say. Had a few kind of weird experiences. A friend of mine had a house that was kind of new, so I don't know why it was haunted really, but it was definitely haunted. There was like all kinds of stuff going on at his house, and this one time in particular, like we went outside. Now you can keep in mind we were like young kids, okay? We're using a Ouija board, and So we go and sit on his patio, and we put the Ouija board down, and we start trying to use it, and nothing's happening. So we kept trying, and nothing was happening. So my friend gets mad, picks up the board, slams it on the ground, starts stomping on it. Ooh. And because, like I said, we were young and dumb, but so he starts doing that, and he stops, and we look at each other, and we look over, and within arm's reach, I'm like sitting like Indian style on the ground. Within arm's reach of me is a dead crow, like a huge black dead crow. Ooh. And it was like so weird because it's a big empty patio, so there's no way that we went and sat down right next to a dead crow.
Right.
And we didn't hear anything like fall out of the sky or nothing. It was just there. And we got freaked out. We ran out like through the side gate, through his backyard. And when we look back at his house, his front door is standing wide open. And no one's home. And we didn't leave the door open. And so that experience right there, like, really freaked me out. But then later on, I kind of wasn't into the paranormal too much. I mean, I was curious about it, but I wasn't like investigating or anything like that. It wasn't until 2012, me and my wife, we went to a haunted hotel, and we were kind of getting into the paranormal, like watching the TV shows and stuff. And we brought like a digital recorder and like a night vision camera, and we just like, let's go see if this is real or not, like what's going on with it. And we do some EVP sessions and this and that. We get back home, and sure enough, we captured some really great EVPs. And I would say from that point forward, we were hooked. When we started Chill Seekers, we just started going to all these haunted locations, yada, yada. And just got more involved. See, the EVP and ITC stuff is what really got me sort of hooked on the paranormal. And so I would like do a lot of EVP sessions. I had a PSP-7. That was like the first spirit box I had. And then I started getting into other ghost boxes. I started making my own ghost boxes. Then I got into the apps. And then, of course, I've been making apps now for like 5 or 6 years. So that's kind of in a nutshell.
That's cool. And so your like your background is like making the ITC devices and applications. Do you actually have a background in like something particular to that, or is that like a skill you taught yourself to kind of start, making these things?
Yeah, it wasn't really a skill. I mean, basically a skill that I taught myself, I guess. With ghost boxes, I would just tear apart radios and try to hack them so they would sweep through stations and stuff. And I started building my own custom boxes. And when I got into the apps, I had this idea for an app, which turned out to be Spiritus. But I reached out to a friend of mine who I've known for like 20 years now or so. This friend of mine who's like a really good programmer. And I told him like, hey, I got this idea for this app. And he listened to what I had to say and kind of shot some ideas back and forth. And then we just sat down and started working on it. My background's more into like the audio engineering side of things. But yeah, so that's how that happened.
So I guess to kind of lead into that, I mean, I'm trying to figure out how to even ask what I mean. So I know that you were tinkering with the different devices, and you use like the spirit boxes and stuff. Yeah. But a lot of those are cycling through the radio stations. What kind of drove you to well, actually, okay, let me back up and have you talk about the applications first before I go into details. Why don't you kind of just explain how your applications work? Because I know that they work different than a spirit box, and I just want to make sure that everybody listening kind of understands that.
Yeah, so, well, there are two main types of apps. ITC apps. There's sound bank apps, and that's where you have basically a lot, like all these snippets of audio, like real small snippets of audio, and they basically get played, like sort of randomized and played. And then there's another type of app, which is an internet sweeping app, I guess you would call it, where it sort of emulates a radio ghost box, but instead of AM, FM stations, it uses internet radio stations.
Very cool. Yeah, and that was part, I think, of what sold me on the applications too. I know for like the spirit boxes, and I'm not putting them down. I know that a lot of people have gotten really good results out of them, but I'm a pretty logical, analytical person. I'm one who picks everything apart. And when I'm listening to the spirit boxes, my brain can't help but think it's cycling through the radio stations, and there's words on the radio stations, and therefore words are going to come through. But like with the Spiritus and Necrophonic, which is what we tend to use the most, you don't have to be hooked up to any service. You know, you can have your phone on airplane mode, and it's just those phonetic sounds. So you know that there's nothing interfering with it. And it's great to get those one word answers if you ask a question and you get a relevant yes or no. But to have like full sentences come out of it is just phenomenal, thinking that you have to string all that together. So,
yeah. And some of it, when it comes together, it's like, it's pretty much mathematically impossible for the app to like produce that on its own. And that's what I kind of tell people too, is if you're just hearing like a bunch of gibberish come out, like nothing's communicating with you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's only when like intelligent responses come through that maybe something is actually connecting and communicating with you. And my whole approach to it is sort of like conducting an EVP session almost. Like think of the apps as kind of like a white noise or something that you're supplying a sound for spirit to use, and you're kind of conducting an EVP session using that sound. That's kind of my approach to it. And I noticed like if you approach it that way, it's all about, you know, the recording, because you can hear stuff live with like in real time, but those could be like false positives or whatever. But it's really the messages that are being recorded. Like when you play back the recording and really listen to it, that's when I've noticed like sentence linked replies, you know, and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and we're kind of going through the same thing right now. So we a lot of the times we use it as for more of that like instant gratification, because we host like a lot of live events and stuff, and you know, those people want that instant gratification. But we're also working on a documentary right now, and we end up using Spiritus in particular at one point during there. And yeah, I've noticed kind of the same thing where we definitely got some immediate answers, but we also, going through re-listening, had just even a lot more than we thought we had during the investigation.
Yeah, and that seems to be the case too. Like sometimes I won't hear anything. Like it would just sound like gibberish. Like, okay, I don't know if anything's even communicating with me right now because I can't understand anything. But then I go back and listen to the recording and I'm like, how did I miss this like full sentence coherent response, you know?
Oh,
or my name or anything. And it's like, how did I miss that? I did not hear that through the speaker. It was when I, you know, played back the recording. And that kind of ties in sort of with the whole like, you know, EVP theory behind it. So
yeah, absolutely. And I've noticed too, like sometimes it depends on where you are in relationship to the phone or the speaker or whatever's making the sound, because I've noticed, at least for me, that sometimes when I back up from the speaker, I can hear things more clearly. So there's a lot of times that I'll get it started and I'll set it in one place and then I kind of walk across the room because that seems to be clearer for me. But yeah, we had stuff, as we were going through this documentary that you can tell we didn't hear it when we were listening to it the first time. We totally didn't react to it. And we're listening back to it while we're reviewing our evidence or our data. Sorry, Shay. It's like, oh my God, that was a very clear answer that just came through. So, yeah.
And we actually have a question from chat, which, by the way, Keith, everybody, nothing but positive results in here.
I was going to read back through some
what you're doing.
Messages just real quick. So, Rebecca Williamson saying she's very excited for the show. Just kind of go through this. Fred, I'm not even going to say Fred, I should know how to say your last name by now. And I am always worried I'm going to screw it up. But Mr. Freddie says...
I'm guessing Schwegenberger.
I think it is, but I'm always worried I'm going to mess it up. Says, incredible applications, Keith. Sorry, I should have been watching all of this. Again, Fred said, spirits have answered multiple times in a row using Keith's applications. 2-word answers. Sorry, I'm scrolling back up. This is super exciting to listen to me do this, right?
So while she was just scrolling, I actually was writing stuff down, and I was going to utilize a question while she was looking for other stuff.
I knew you were writing down the questions. I just wanted to share some of the comments with them.
Oh, so, gotcha.
Brian is saying, love Spiritus, use it a lot and works great. Yeah, I figured you had the questions. You were on top of that. All right, you on the questions?
So we got a question from Mama Pat, and actually this is a good one. I have a small bank of questions, kind of stored away for myself, but I don't know how I didn't think of this. So having worked with ITC for as long as you have, do you have any sort of theories as to how they're actually utilizing these devices?
Well, I mean, there are different theories on it. Like I said, it's kind of somewhat based on EVP theories. Like there's transform EVP, which is like what you would consider like your normal EVP, like spirits taking sound, even if you're just in a quiet room, the ambient sound of the room, and transforming that into a message on a recorder. That's basically what transform EVP is. And then there's like opportunistic EVP, which is like a spirit box spitting out sounds, and spirits somehow, combining these sounds together to form some sort of speech. And then there's like random selection, where it's kind of the idea that the spirit can sort of manipulate the device itself and the randomization process. So sort of, I don't know, pick and choose kind of what comes out of the device is kind of a way to put it. I mean, it's kind of a combination of a lot of things that, I mean, at the end of the day, it's paranormal. I mean, it's a mystery. I mean, we don't know exactly what they're doing. We have an idea. They're influencing the sound in a way to create messages somehow, but we don't really know how they're doing it.
Yeah, that's the $1 million question, is how exactly are they doing it? But, if anybody's going to have a fairly decent idea, I would say you do. So to share a couple more statements out of chat, Brian was saying that they've had spirits going crazy on Spiritus, and we tell them to slow down or one at a time. We've had that happen before, too, where we'll turn on one of the applications and it's really noisy, like they're talking to each other and there's multiple people talking, and we'll do the same thing and say, guys, you got to talk one at a time so we can understand you. And it's amazing how they respond, because it's like it gets quiet and then one voice comes through, one response comes through at a time, But I think some of the most interesting conversations we've heard is actually, we're not talking at all. They're talking to each other, and we're listening to the conversation. So it's really, really cool.
I was just going to say, like, I've captured that a lot, where it sounds like spirits are actually having a conversation to themselves and not to me. And I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So, that almost kind of raises a question, though. So we're not, of course, we can't, say definitively how they're utilizing these apps. Do you think there's like I'm trying to figure out how to phrase this, almost like a wavelength that like they actually exist on, and then that's what these devices are tapping into to give us like these unintentional bits of their conversations?
I mean, it could be. Sometimes it seems like it's something like that where we're tapping into some sort of frequency that they're on. I don't know for sure. I've had them, I've asked the spirits this like multiple times, and most of the time they mention energy. They mention like markings things. I don't know exactly what that means. I'm guessing marking the sound, but I don't really know for sure, to be honest with you.
Huh.
But yeah, I mean, what did it say? Oh, I'm trying to think of what they said. It said, mark the physical, something like, mark the physical, something about energy. I don't know. It was weird. But I got like similar messages multiple times when I asked them, like, how are you using the sound to communicate? And I would get stuff about along those lines, basically using the energy to mark the sound or whatever. So I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know how exactly they're doing it. A lot of people think with the ghost boxes that they were tapping into some sort of frequency, but in my opinion, it's more like a Radio Ghost Box does a similar thing to the apps as far as just providing sounds.
Right.
Providing the sound that spirits can use to create the messages. So
providing that resource for them to pull and put together, and
on occasionally just kind of accidentally hop on. It's kind of like using an old ham radio where you might be having a direct conversation with somebody else, but you could be catching,
like you forgot to mute your microphone or something.
Or things like that, yeah, I suppose.
And we're just listening to things going on. So what would you say has been, well, I'm assuming like when you go out and do investigations now, you use your applications quite a bit. What would you say has been your most intriguing, your best experience with it so far?
I'm going to make that a two-parter. So for your personal experience, what's kind of the coolest that's come out of one of your applications? But I'm also sure you get like tons of feedback. Have you ever gotten a story from somebody else's experience that just kind of blows your mind a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I got an email not too long ago from someone, and I can't recall exactly what the details were, but it was basically like they were using the app and it told them like something about cooking and stove or something like that. And I think they had left something on the stove cooking, and it was like about to like, I don't know, spill over or catch on fire or something. And they had to like run in there and get to it. But I've gotten plenty of messages from people with like pretty amazing experiences. But it's hard to recall the details. It's been a while. My own experience, let's see. You know what? A lot of really good communication I get is just here at my house. I like to test my apps out here at the house, and some of the best communication I've gotten through the apps have been here. I've gotten some great stuff at some haunted locations too, but I would say like some of the best, like as far as like sentence length, like very coherent, direct messages have been here while just like testing the apps on my own.
And I think that's probably...
So this almost leads like a question / statement kind of thing then. So I guess the first one would be I think the question everybody kind of jumped to. Do you have anything cool, special about the history of your house in particular? Are you sitting on like a paranormal gold mine and just keeping it to yourself, or?
Well, there is some stuff that's happened here. There was a lady who, like, the previous owner passed away in the house, and we've seen plenty of stuff in the house. There's a weird experience that I don't know if a lot of people have experienced this, but for instance, I'll be like walking down my hallway or something, and I'll see like the front door open up, but then when I look at it, it's closed. Or like I'll be walking by my stove, and my wife experienced the same thing. It'll be like you'll see like smoke coming like off the stovetop, but when I look, it's like there's no smoke. Like weird things like that. I don't know if that's a common thing that people have experienced, but I thought it was weird. And then my wife has seen like figures and stuff walking by. I haven't seen anything like that, but she has. But in my opinion, when you're communicating with spirit, I don't think you really need to be at a haunted location. I mean, it probably helps. And I mean, maybe you can get in contact with the spirits that are there. But I don't know. I feel like you can communicate with spirits anywhere, really. I don't know if they're necessarily like tied to a physical location. Well, not all of them. I mean, I'm sure some of them are, but.
Oh yeah, and it was honestly just more of a generally curious question. I do think since there's bound to be spirit anywhere and everywhere you go, that sometimes you've set up the right circumstances. You're a guy sitting there, essentially inventing things, trying to, test your inventions. And that's a genuine openness for communication that I don't think you can synthesize with just like the average Joe going out and trying to do a paranormal investigation.
Yeah.
I have to share one of the comments from chat, basically because it cracks me up. So, like I said, I've talked about the application. Spiritus is my favorite, probably because that's the one I started with. But so I talked about it all the time, and Shay had never used it. And she put in chat, and she's told me this before. She started using Spiritus to prove me wrong. Well, I actually proved her right. So I love that she had to eat her words about, I don't know that this application is going to work. And now she is honestly, that's hardcore supporter.
That's a hell of a stigma you broke. I have to give you props for that because, back in the day when you heard like phone-based apps, you're thinking, like Ghost Radar and all that other stuff. So,
well, and that's kind of my spiel. I mean, so Keith, we host a lot of events. We'll do public investigations. We'll do I even use it at my intuitive retreats. When we're doing paranormal talks, we'll talk about it, and when we're out in paracons and stuff. And that's kind of what I always tell people is that, if honestly, when somebody approached me and said, hey, there's a phone application that you can use to talk to spirits, my first reaction was, yeah, bullshit, But
well, that was my first reaction too. So.
Well, yeah. But I tried it, and like I told you at the very beginning of this, I can't deny that it works when I'm hearing the same thing through the application that I'm hearing in my head. But even now when I'm out talking to people about this, I'll tell them that, do you want to message her to be quiet? Even now when we're out doing presentations, I'll tell people that, there are 1,000,002 applications out on your phone, and I'm going to tell you that 95% of them are crap. They're for entertainment purposes only. But these are amazing. These are proven in my mind to work, and I am not one to go around and say, hey, this is something that I support and this is something that I promote. And, but I don't know that I'm ever in public speaking that I don't bring this up. So, when you're rich and famous, just remember that, a slight royalty check here and there would be great. So.
Yeah, there are a lot of just fake ghost apps out there, but these apps that I'm making are really based on, instrumental transcommunication. There's not like, I don't know. I'm not like putting like you said, the ghost radar. I'm not like just putting dots on the screen and being like, look, it's a ghost.
Right.
It works like similar to like ghost boxes, and it's based on like EVP theories and stuff. It's not like a hoax, you know what I mean?
No, and it's really not. And that's been what's so fun to watch, though, because we'll do these investigations or the retreats, and when I tell people, hey, we're going to use a phone app to communicate with spirits, they kind of give me this look like, ooh, we almost respected you. And then we use it throughout the night, and by the time they're getting ready to leave, they're like, what's the name of that application? How do I download it? And half of them are better have got it downloaded before they ever leave us. So it's, I mean, proof's in the pudding.
It's funny, like, when I first started getting into the whole, like, app part of it, like, I was the same way. I was like, I don't know about these phone applications. Like, I don't see how that could work well. And then I started using them, and some Windows-based apps, too, and I was like, okay, it seems to be working pretty good. So, it's I think it's become more acceptable over the last, like, probably, I don't know, 6 years. When I first started making the app, there wasn't too many people using it. But now, like, the last Paracon I went to, it was funny because it was like they're doing their investigation and we're walking around, and I'm like, I hear one of my apps going over with this group of people, and then I'm walking by and I hear my other app over here with this group of people, and I'm like, what the heck?
It's almost got to be weird.
Yeah, and it was like everyone was using the apps, and it was pretty amazing, actually.
Well, and that's like, I'm looking at the names of the people who are in chat. I think every single person who's in chat right now has used at least one of your applications. So, can't swear that everybody listening has, but yeah, I don't know that there's very many people that we investigate with that haven't used one at some point, and probably as one of their primary tools. So,
yeah, it is. It's a bizarre thing, because at one point we just used our phones to look at pictures of cats and watch porn, and now we're using it to talk to dead people, and it's a crazy transformation.
Now we just need to get to the ghost porn, and it will all be melded together.
The circle of life will have completed itself, and we can start a whole new one. And that's probably why the world's in such distress right now, is because we haven't completed that circle, because we haven't hit ghost porn.
There you go.
So, speaking of the application, speaking of chat,
ghost porn, we're going to go to Rebecca, or what?
I was just trying to look for some way to make a fluid transition into, we have a question from chat about the apps.
There you go, Rebecca. Porn makes him think of you.
So, Rebecca from Cambria House and Farm in Illinois wants to know, is there anything that you would want to add to any of these apps? I know you've come out with quite a few, and I'm sure these are all just kind of expressions of different things you want to try and experiment with. But if there was anything you could add to any of these apps, what do you think you'd do?
Well, it is kind of a process where it's kind of evolving over time. I kind of just started with Spiritus, and as I keep going, I kind of like, I want to try this and tweak this and do that. If there's anything, I don't know. I get a lot of people asking me to put a recorder in it, so it records the audio as well.
That'd be nice.
But I don't know. I could, but I think it actually works better if you just record it onto like a separate recording device, whether it's a camera or digital recorder or whatever.
I could definitely see that, because like Kelly had mentioned, it's weird how you hear it better when you're further away. And
yeah,
I know there was at one point we're reviewing stuff for the documentary. We're pretty sure we're using Spiritus, but got an actual EVP on top of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see how a recorder would be something cool, but I also think I would have to agree with that something almost kind of gets lost if you're just recording the sounds an app makes.
Yeah.
All right. So another question that we had in chat, Mama Pat wants to know, have you had any experiences where what comes through actually sounds like the voice of the departed person?
I don't know. A lot of the times I don't specifically reach out to a certain spirit. And if I did, a lot of times I wouldn't know what they sounded like anyway. But personally, no. I've heard of people having those experiences where it sounds like the person that they're trying to communicate with. But me personally, not really. Not that I'm aware of, really.
I know you have a million questions.
Oh, no. I was, no, it was kind of making me think. So my first experience with Spiritus, actually, we had a voice that came through that sounded similar. And you're providing like a blanket of sound, just a field of white noise. To my mind,
yeah, I definitely think it's possible. I just, personally, I haven't really experienced it. So go ahead.
No, you're good. I was actually chatting with Kelly here. We've got notes and stuff written down, and I was making sure we weren't missing things
and all that fun stuff. So go ahead. I know you have a million questions.
I was going to say, if you want to go down and start hitting Darren's. So Darren is
our question master.
Best question master. Oh my gosh, that's Darren's new title. So we've been intentionally skipping his so we can ask them in almost a shotgun type of fashion.
Did you write them all down?
No.
I got to scroll back through and find all of his.
At the very bottom of the chat, lady. What are you doing?
Because I'm looking for them. I don't remember what they all were.
Okay, so
there's one.
Question. So this is reference to another type of ITC device. So Darren wants to know, is the GeoPort the same as your apps? Quit moving, lady. Jesus.
I keep scrolling.
So Darren wants to know, is the GeoPort the same as your apps? If not, do you think you'll make one like that?
The GeoPort, is that the George Brown Ghost Box, the portable one?
I know it's portable. It usually looks like a stereo speaker, and the ones I've seen at least light up and glow different colors, and it's almost got more of a wispy sound to it.
Okay, I'm not really the one I'm familiar with called GeoPort. You've seen the one that Nick Groff used on that what was it, Paranormal Lockdown? The GeoPort that he has.
I think he uses a GeoPort sometimes.
Okay, that one I believe is either radio scanning, and then it also had a Bluetooth where you could connect apps to it and run it through it, and it sort of like changed the sound of the audio. So I'm not aware of a GeoPort like app.
So that's closer to like audio manipulation as opposed to something that's actually producing sound, like what you think.
Well, exactly, and I think if I'm understanding right how like the GeoPorts work, you still have to have some sort of, it still has to work with something. So you still have to hook it up to an application, or you still have to hook it up to like a spirit box or something, because it doesn't create the sound on its own. So you could maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe you could run Spiritus through the GeoBox and have it like, I have no idea.
As far as the GeoPort, I know the
GeoBox.
The GeoBox, I believe, has built-in radios.
Yeah.
But the GeoPort, from what I remember, because when I went to the Queen Mary, I met up with Nick Groff, and he had the GeoPort, and we ran Spiritus through it because it had Bluetooth connection to the box.
Yeah.
To the GeoPort. Yeah. So we just ran Spiritus through it, and it adds like this sort of reverby sound to it.
And that's what I was thinking, is that you had to run something else with it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so then one of Darren's other questions was, has any of your applications ever helped solve a crime that you know of?
That I know of? Not that I know of. I know there's a lot of people who do the like true crime sort of paranormal stuff, which I think is really interesting. But I don't know of any. I don't know. Maybe it has. I have no idea. If it has, that'd be cool. I would like to know about it. That'd be cool.
Yeah, really. So Brian is confirming that he's run Spiritus with the GeoPort. So yeah, it sounds like that's how they work. Like I said, totally non-techy.
Also, unprecedented event. You, Keith, have given Darren question block,
Right? That's what happens. A little starstruck. So, I'm trying to think if we've missed any. So I know that you have five applications out total right now, right?
Yeah, I think so.
There's one more. And the EVP. What was the name of the last one? Because we need to go find that one. EVP what?
There's EVP Shifter. Yeah, so it's
Brian. There's
Spiritus, Sweep, Necrophonic, Deadwave, EVP Shifter, Signal, and I did put out a little recording app too called White Noise EVP Recorder. But
okay.
It's not. It's just a little simple recording app, really. And it plays white noise, changes the frequencies and stuff.
And I'll just let you know, I just did this live. EVP Shifter is currently downloading on my phone.
We don't usually waste too much time when we find out you put out something new to get them downloaded on EVP phone.
EVP Shifter is actually pretty cool. The thing with that app is everything is like shifting all the time, like the scan rate, the pitch, the frequencies, the resolution, like all these different things are going on with the audio. And I don't know, I feel like it really can enhance like that sort of EVP communication that you're trying to get.
Oh, because at that point it's truly random. You're not, like on Spirit, it's selecting from, sound bank 1, 2, 3, and 4, and kind of slapping your personal preference on like reverb and echo and all that stuff. It's genuinely random. You'll see when you test it out. You'll know what I'm talking about. I'm excited.
The audio is kind of like always sort of morphing. It's weird, but it's pretty cool. I don't know. I put a lot of thought into making that one. There was a lot of that went. It seems simple, right? There's just a button to turn it on, and I think there's like a couple buttons down there, and there's an EQ, but there's a lot going on like within the app itself.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have, and I know you just put out your last one not all that long ago, but are you currently working on your next one already, or do you have something in mind for what the next one's going to be? And if you do, can you share any of it with us?
Well, we just put out Signal like a few months ago.
Yeah.
And that's the first like I said, internet radio sweeping app. The rest of them are like sound bank apps, but this is a internet radio sweeping app. Mm-hmm. That's the first one we put out like that. I do have some ideas written down that I've been coming up with, but honestly, probably won't be working on that right away. It's probably going to be maybe later on this year. I'm hoping we can put another one out. It's going to be a whole process.
Well, if you ever need beta testers, you know how to get a hold of me. We're more than happy to test stuff out for you.
Awesome. Yeah. I'm always thinking of new. See, I'm always thinking of like, okay, what if we did this or tweak that?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if this did that instead of that? It's kind of just like a lot of it's just experimental. You're just trying things out. Okay, that sounds cool. This doesn't. Let's go with that. And it's kind of that whole process of building it.
I always think it's fun when we're out doing the investigations and we have the applications running and it does that super low sound. The faces people make. It is the best because they look.
We assure them it's Satan.
Yeah, Chris is so comforting because he looks around and goes, Satan? I was like, no, it's not. It's just one of the sounds that comes out of there. Listen to it when you're reviewing your audio. Mess with it a little bit. Sometimes there's stuff in there. So
Right.
A couple more questions out of chat for you. Has there been anything that has gone wrong during the investigation with the app that has caused a problem at a location or brought on more spirits to the place?
I can see where he's kind of come from with that question, because I know a lot of people put the stigma around like Ouija boards, like, oh, you invited something into the house, and the Ouija board itself is given
Yeah, but you know how
blame
I feel about
for that
this.
invitation in. And I mean,
Yeah.
I can see how the argument could be made. I not one side of the fence or the other with agreeing with it, but I can see how the argument could be made that, ITC devices, EVP too, but like ITC almost specifically can kind of incite the same invitation. So have you heard of that? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I believe that if you're trying to communicate with spirits, it kind of comes with the territory. Like for instance, somebody messaged me not too long ago and said, I'm having these experiences in my house. What should I do? And I'm like, well, probably the best thing you could do if you just want it to go away is like ignore it. And maybe, if it gets smudge your house or something, if it's really bad or something. But like the best thing you could do is probably just ignore it. If you start trying to communicate and you're using whatever devices you're using, it's probably going to like increase in activity. That's just kind of been my experience with it as far as, if you're going to do that spirit communication at a location or whatever, it's probably going to increase the activity no matter what you're doing.
I absolutely love that
that's
philosophy.
My opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we've talked a ton about your applications, but there's so much more to you than just your applications. So you mentioned towards the beginning of the show, you mentioned Chill Seekers. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what Chill Seekers is?
Yeah, so Chill Seekers is a group that me and my wife started back in 2012. And we have a web series that we do on YouTube. You can also find stuff on all of our stuff on chillseekers.com. And yeah, I forgot how many episodes we had now, but it's like 40 something. Yeah, we've been doing that for a while. Last year, because of COVID, we had to cancel
everything.
Yeah.
Everything's an easy way to explain how last year went.
Exactly. So we had all these things lined up. We had a documentary that we were planning to, and everything got canceled. So we haven't done anything for like a year. So
we feel that pain.
Yeah.
We haven't done much. We did manage to get out and film a couple documentaries, mostly because we're friends with the owners and we're able to get in by ourselves. But yeah, we absolutely feel that pain.
Yeah, really sucks.
Yeah, which kind of leads us back to chat once again, because it's kind of getting hit with questions, and I know we're running. I mean, we're not close to the end, but we're running on the last 15 minutes here or so. So, as Paranormal Investigator, non-app related question. So, good job, Rebecca, once again. We're pretty familiar with the Midwest and investigation locations to the east, but we're not. We haven't gone west too much.
Get that pen ready, because we need to.
We'll get the pen ready. I think as far west I've investigated out in like Arizona, that sort of thing. But so out in Cali, what's your favorite place to go investigate?
Well, there's a few places that are pretty good. We went to Preston Castle in Ione, California. That was pretty fun. The Queen Mary.
Yes.
There's a costume shop here in Modesto where I'm at called Daydreams and Nightmares, and they got a lot of haunted stuff going on there. I don't know. There's a lot of places. There's a Mare Island, which is like an old naval base, and that place is pretty cool. But I mean, I don't know. There's a lot. I'd say one of my favorite is let's see. Well, there was the National Hotel in Jamestown. And what was that place? I don't know. There's a lot of cool places out here.
So, eventually this bitch named Rona's gonna let up. And
yeah.
It kind of leads to the next question from Rebecca. So it opens up where her exact question was, where do you want to investigate next? But yeah, if you had a dream location, I'm going to expand on it.
What's your bucket list?
What's your bucket list? Top of the bucket list.
Well, Chernobyl is one of them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The White House.
Like
I don't know how I've never considered that.
Like the White House.
Yeah.
The White House, yeah. They say it's on.
Kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it could be anywhere, I guess those would be probably my top two.
I've never thought of that before. But
Okay,
think of the history of that.
I think my thought process on this is even worse. I'm thinking of places I could actually get into, and Chernobyl is on my mental list, which means I think I'm going to get into a radioactive city that was shut down
quicker than you get into.
Quicker than I get into the White House.
I don't see a problem.
Yeah.
I will call them tomorrow and just say, "Look, we want everybody out of the building, and just the two of us are going to wander around by ourselves with cameras and recording equipment. It should be fine. I can't see why they'd bat an eye."
Well, there was a guy a few years ago who just basically ran through the front door. Does anybody else remember that?
No. Crazy. No, but I don't think we should probably hold our breath for any of us to get.
So I'm going to hit that with a hard disclaimer, just in case Break Brothers listen. I'm not encouraging anybody to do that.
Nor do we have any plans to do that. This is actually a question that I had thought of earlier, and then I kind of forgot to ask. So obviously you have your applications, and they're one of my favorite. I'm assuming you're kind of fond of them as well. But when you go out on investigations, besides your applications, what are your favorite tools to use? What's your favorite method of investigating?
I have a few devices that I like to bring. The DR60 recorder. I've always gotten some really cool EVPs with that. Let's see. I have a few different radio scanning ghost boxes that I use. I kind of just go with whatever. I know when I first started, I would like literally drag the freaking box full of gear with me.
Yeah.
You know, stuff the trunk where it can't barely close. And, you know, just bring it all. And I would like string up DVR cameras and everything. But nowadays, I usually pack really light now. I just bring like one bag. It's got all the main stuff in it. And that's pretty much it.
And
a lot of times I meet up with other people and I'm like, what do you got in your bag? And we'll just kind of use whatever people have. And
I would go as far as to say you've helped a lot of people lighten that load.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like it's in the pocket now.
And it's something that we're going to carry with us anyways. I mean, who goes any place without their phone these days? So, yeah, the worst of it is I usually carry two phones because I carry my old disabled phone, which is what I run the applications off of, and then I've got my new phone that, you know, if we go live, we can run it off of that. So I can go everywhere and have my two phones and be completely covered. So I'm good.
Yeah, you know what's cool too is, yeah, no problem. What's cool is it is on your phone and it can kind of go anywhere. So like the last time we went to Disneyland, like I used Spiritus like walking down Main Street. I used it on the Haunted Mansion ride, and I just had like a screen recording app just recording the whole thing. Well, it was pretty cool. I actually got some really good EVPs with it too. I was like, wow.
Well, and that's the thing. So, like,
hang on, I need context. What did you get out of the Haunted Mansion?
Well, actually, the Haunted Mansion I didn't get much. It said Disneyland. I got by the firehouse thing. It said Walt, and then it said Disney. Oh, I think it even said his. I think it even said his middle name too, like Elliot or whatever his middle name. There's a girl that was killed there in one of the buildings, and we went to that building, she was like crushed between some walls, and I actually got her full name come through. So that was interesting. It's like Debbie Stone. I was like, what the heck? That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
It's super ironic being caught in a wall and your name is Stone.
Right.
No, but you made a comment about being able to take this anywhere, and honestly, that is such a huge advantage of what you've provided to us, because I was out at Gettysburg, and you're not supposed to ghost hunt at Gettysburg. I mean, they will hunt you down if they think you're ghost hunting out there, but they can't stop you from having your phone. And so, and I was out there with my mom, and we would Bluetooth into my car and run Spiritus through the speakers of my car. I had a mobile spirit box with me, and we'd be driving through the battlefields. It was amazing. I didn't know you couldn't.
I didn't know you couldn't ghost hunt there. That's
there's nothing that says technically you can't.
Oh, I think it's illegal.
Oh, okay. Well, I've broken the law.
I think that everybody who's ever been there has. So the reason that they say that you're not supposed to basically is because people used to go out there and metal detect. And so they can't tell the difference between the other equipment and a metal detector, and they get.
How can you not tell between a small box in your hand and a metal detector?
People aren't smart, but they get really pissy if you're out there digging up the battlefield. So
you might find some cool shit.
But never mind. I won't say that on a radio show. That could be. Let's just say there's probably people who take pieces of rock and different things that they find in their home with them. Not me, of course. I would never do something like that.
Right.
Right. So.
Cool. So we're creeping up the end.
So do you guys collect stuff from haunted places? I mean, just curious because I have not a whole lot, but I mean, every now and then I'll pick up something or I'll be given something.
It's never with intention, but for example, right now I'm actually sitting next to a piece of the Malvern Manor in Iowa, a piece of with the original steps.
Right, and it's never anything that we steal from a location. It's things that are gifted to us, or
I've been given a whole infant headstone before.
We've been given a piece of Farrar. I have to say probably the coolest piece of a location that I would assume to be haunted that is probably a felony that she took it, but who's counting? I had a friend of mine that went over to the Oracle, and she brought a stone home.
In Greece?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
She knew that was something that has
I felt like a rebel when I brought home paint chips from the Ohio State Reformatory.
Yeah, no,
you have to get that shit through customs. That's nuts.
She saw it was just little. It's just tiny, but she saw a loose stone and she grabbed it for me kind of out of the building and brought it home. So I have that. I don't know where it came from. I can't remember the name of the gal who gave it to me. So if anybody tries to hunt me down for it, I can't turn anybody in. Yeah, we're going to go with that.
That's kind of a basic question. So anything cool in your collection?
I was going to say that I think the weirdest thing that I have is a human tooth, a gold-plated human tooth.
Awesome.
And it came from this South American haunted skull that's stuffed with quartz crystal. It was at this Museum of the Macabre that we were investigating because he had all this crazy stuff. And we're doing an SB11 session. And I have it propped up on the ground. We're asking all these questions. And we go to pick up the spirit box, and underneath it is a tooth. And this thing's in a glass cabinet, so I don't even know how the tooth fell out of there. But it was right underneath the spirit box, and it again, I don't know how I would put a spirit box down and not see a freaking
exactly, kind of sitting down next to the dead crow.
You have a piece of a pantheon, and his story just kicked the shit out of yours.
And what was weird too is we went back and we started using the spirit box again, and we asked what it was, and it said tooth, and then it said skull. So we were like, "Oh my god!"
Well, if you'd have kept going, you'd have found the whole skull. Then that's what I'd have taken from that. How cool! Yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't know that I I have mixed emotion on haunted items, but there's definitely energy attached.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So,
have you observed anything to that like respect of? So our consensus on haunted objects is like an object itself is not like a ball and chain to a particular spirit, but it's something they choose to hang around. So with your collection of things, have you noticed somebody wanting to hang around your stuff?
Not really. I feel like it might have some weird energy with it, but yeah, I don't think it's, as far as I know, I don't think anything's like attached to the item.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, it kind of has a weird kind of vibe to it. I know I pulled that tooth out not too long ago, and my wife was like, you moved the tooth, didn't you? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I've been seeing stuff and all this.
Oh, no.
Things. And I'm like, how did you know?
Well, you see, I've been
so
seeing stuff.
She might have a different answer to that than me. But.
Excellent. Well, we are over the hour mark, or right at the hour mark, I know.
So we had two quick questions. One is pretty much a staple in most Paranormal Buzz Radio shows. The other one is, so this one's for me personally. I've been just kind of sitting on this question. No one's forcing you to make a decision, but if you were to pick your favorite baby, do you have a preferred application of yours that you make?
Okay. Well, Spiritus was the first one, so that's going to be like, I even have it tattooed on me, Spiritus, but
that's awesome. Cool.
That's always going to be like my favorite, I guess, but like my number one app that I would use the most is probably, right now, it's EVP Shifter.
I'm so glad I just downloaded it.
I'm excited to see that one. I don't know how I didn't know about that, because I border on stalker of your apps. So I don't know how I didn't know about that. And that is a horrible question. That is asking, like, which one of your children is your favorite?
To be fair, that's like it's just a step above like the general, like, hey, what's the favorite place you've ever been? Like, if your investigation's cool, it's special, but sometimes you just have a favorite, whether you want to acknowledge it or not.
Well, and I do think it's just personal preference on what people like to hear. Because I know, like, even you and me, there's times that you prefer the necrophonic, and I think you've said before, because it's a little bit quieter, it doesn't make quite as much noise. And I've just always been partial to Spiritus, and it is partially because there's so much there's more going on, and so it ties more with what I'm hearing. But yeah, I don't know. And I do know for me, there's different things that it hits certain, I don't know if it's decibels or if it's frequency or what it is, but there's certain devices or sounds that just set my teeth on edge. Like, I cannot be around spirit boxes. They make me physically sick. Which is another reason I love your applications. Thank you. They don't make me feel like I need to vomit up my lunch. So I think it's just kind of a personal preference on what they like to listen to. But yeah, if I was picking my favorite of his babies, Spiritus is my favorite.
No, I'll play with the Shifter after this.
I know.
So, very last question, and this is a Paranormal Buzz staple coming to you from Darren. So, we were talking about haunted objects prior. What is one object you would never want to be haunted?
Wait, say that again? What object would I...
If there is such a thing as a haunted object... Mm-hmm. What is one object that you would never want to be haunted?
Like something I own?
Like in general.
So, disclaimer, we have had...
The last time I heard the answer to this question, it was dildo.
We've had dildo, toilets, physical body parts. And remember, the show's explicit, so there is no right or wrong answer. But yeah, anything in the world, what is the last thing you would want to be haunted?
I don't know. I guess My car? I don't know. I don't know.
That's fair. I mean, that sounds like they've made a movie about that before.
Yes, Carrie.
All right, very cool. Well, hey, we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, before we go, Keith, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. But just, I'm going to give a shout out before you tell everybody where they can find you. Just one more time. Like Chris said, thank you so much for coming on the show. You guys know me. I'm pretty picky on what I'll stand behind and what I will endorse. And these applications are absolutely something that I'm behind 100%. I haven't found one yet that I don't think works. And I don't know that there's anybody I ever really talked to that I'm not like, ooh, you got to go try this. So they're available on Android and Apple, and they're ridiculously reasonably priced. I mean, I think the most expensive one is what, $12.95, Keith?
Yeah. Spiritus is $12.99.
Yeah. So that's like nothing, you know. You pay it once, you download it, you've got it forever. So totally worth the investment. But for anybody who wants to follow you and keep track of you and stalk you, how can they find you?
Well, chillseekers.com is our website. We're on YouTube, Chillseekers TV, and Weldon Paranormal. Facebook, I have a Facebook page. Instagram at Chillseekers. Pretty much it.
Right on. So, do you have anything else you wanted to pitch in before I crush this sign off?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, let's do this. All right, everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Traveler's Moon podcast. As always, I'm your host, the Paranomad Chris Nielsen.
Kelly McCarville, Moonspinner.
Thanks for tuning in. If you guys are listening to the live show, make sure you liked and shared the episode. If you're listening in afterwards, you can catch us every other Wednesday. Follow us on social media anywhere at Traveler's Moon to figure out what Wednesday we're talking about in particular. And tune in to live shows, because as you saw tonight, the chat is interactive. You get to be part of the show.
And 2 weeks from tonight, our tentative plan for a show is...
Guys... We're doing the Amityville Horror. I'm very jazzed for this upcoming show. It's actually kind of indirectly what got me into the paranormal, so it's very near and dear to my heart. So yeah, thank you for tuning in. If you're listening post, of course, tune into the live shows or follow us anywhere on social media at Traveler's Moon. And tune in next week when...
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. Next show, 2 weeks from now. We will be tackling the Amityville Horror.
A huge shout out again, Keith Weldon. Thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate you. And thanks everybody for listening.
All my sexy beaches in chat. You have a good night.